Morning, peeps. Good morning, everyone. All right, let's do this. This might be a longer than usual video just because I haven't filmed in, 3-4 days, and I just want to go over a couple of things that I've missed. I might make two separate videos. We might just stick to talking about Joyce in this one. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, good morning. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Don't forget as well to like and share the vids. Let's have a quick sip of this and then we can get going. What I do want to say, sorry, that was a big gulp. I apologize. What I do want to say is thank you so much for all the positive feedback from the last video I did, saying that I'm going to be working with DAZN. I really appreciate it. I was actually nervous to make that video just because of what the reaction might be, but the reaction was super positive. So many comments, and yeah, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. Honestly, it made me, because I can't lie, like when I put the video up, I was like a bit nervous to look at the first 3 or 4 comments. And then when they were very, very good, I was like, okay, this might not be as bad as I thought. And in the end, it was all positive, like maybe just a couple of negative ones, which always seem to stand out. It's weird. You could have like 600 positive comments. For some reason, it's almost like the negative ones are fucking highlighted in capital letters and they're not, but I just feel like they just stand out. But I get it. I understand the negative ones as well. But yeah, for the majority, it was all positive. I was covering the Joyce Takam fight for TalkSport yesterday, so I was actually there at the SSE arena, and there was a few people that watched the channel that were there, and they came up to me and they were like, "Oh, well done, blah blah blah," and that was nice. That was nice. So John came up to me, Luke was ringside, he came up to me as well. So again, thank you for those guys that are probably watching this video now that came up. Really appreciate the love. All right, let's get into it. Joyce, Carlos Takam. Overall, I actually thought the fight card was entertaining. I don't know what you guys thought watching it at home. I don't know how many of you watched it, but there were about 6,000 people in there. It was a really, really good atmosphere. Obviously, songs galore, but it was good. I'm trying to think what I thought fight of the night was. Fight of the night. I thought Eko Usman versus Chris Jenkins was good. I actually picked it as my fight of the night. It didn't turn out to be that. I thought it was good. I thought from round 2, Usman just looked like the more commanding, took the centre of the ring a lot more, kind of forced Chris Jenkins on the back foot. Bear in mind, Chris Jenkins hasn't been in the ring for over 600 days, and it looked like that as well. I know everyone talks about ring rust, but I could see clear ring rust with Chris Jenkins. And in the end, Usman got the win, got the stoppage, which is big, by the way. Him getting a stoppage is big because he's not known as a power puncher. Yes, he punches in bunches. He's nicknamed the Engine. You can see why. But yeah, stoppage win's good. I didn't see his BT Sports interview after or hear it, but hopefully he called out Conor Benn. Now, whether or not you're going to get Conor Benn's another thing, but you've got to call him out. You've got to. You are an unbeaten welterweight champion, British and Commonwealth. Conor Benn's in your division. You've got to call out the man in your division, the money man. Again, will he get the fight? Probably not, but you've got to. And if you can't get Conor Benn, there are fights like Mickinson's out there. Florian Marcoux maybe even possible. I don't know. I heard that O'Hara Davis looks like he might come up to 147. So there are fights out there for him. And he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, Usman. So well done to him. David Adelaide got a victory as well. Got a stoppage against that tough Bulgarian, I think it was. Adelaide looked good. Look, he's only, what's that? He's 7th fight, 7 wins, 6 KOs. He needed a good performance after the Sokolowski, some say controversial win. And we wait to see what happens with him in the next 4 to 5 fights. I was ringside with Adam Cattrall and Spencer Oliver, who both talked about seeing him spar, and they mentioned a couple of big names that he sparred, and he's really handled himself well in sparring. So they expect big things from him as well. We'll see how it plays out in the next 4 or 5 fights. There are some decent level Brits and maybe even more Europeans they can get to build that record up to 12, 13-0, and then it's a case of putting him in with someone decent. So we'll see how that one plays out. Hamza Shiraz, yeah, expected him to get the win. A lot of people are high on him, like very, very high. Obviously, 154 pounds in this country is very, very deep. You've almost got 5 or 6 guys that all think they're the number 1 in the division. So Scott Fitzgerald, he's back. He thinks he's number 1. So does Fowler. Fowler thinks that, now he's switched to Shane McGuigan as well. He's learning different things. He thinks he's the best. You've got Troy Williamson. You've got Ted Cheeseman. And now you've got Hamza. So you've got 5 or 6 guys there that I think all match up. I think it's all 50-50 fights if they all fight. So we'll see what happens with him. What's he now, 13-0? He's 6'2", 6'3", rangy, can fight inside, has moved camps. He's now training in America. He's switched trainers as well. Now he's with, is it Ricky Funez, I think's the guy's name. So Ricky Funez, by the way, comes out of the Goosen camp. So he's been around the likes of Casamayor and Goosen. But Hamza Shiraz did say in the lead up to the fight that being in America and sort of different sparring, and I think that's important. I do think that Brits can get into a European style of fighting. I think as early as you can in your career, get over there and just find out different ways of fighting. Like the Eastern Europeans go over to America. You obviously got the Cubans that come up, the Mexicans, the Americans themselves, and they all fight differently. If you can kind of pick up little bits from all of them, it will make you a better fighter. So we wait to see what happens with him. The British Boxing Board of Control have ordered, a final eliminator for him and Anthony Fowler to fight I think the winner of Cheeseman, Troy Williamson, who fight for the British title. So it's a bit complicated. It's a bit of a bottleneck there, but Hamza Shiraz is definitely one for the future. Remember, he's only, 22, 13-0. I think that's 8 or 9 knockouts now. So yeah, he looks very, very good. All right, let's talk about the main event, Joyce versus Carlos Takam. I tell you now, I don't know what Joyce's head is made of. He obviously came out in that Juggernaut sort of helmet. I think that's the only word to call it, really. I was going to call it a hat, but it certainly wasn't a hat. Helmet. And I don't know if he dines off the fact that he can take a punch too much. I'm watching it and I'm thinking, you're getting hit far too much here and far too easily. So it's one thing getting hit and the opponent's just too good and you can't see the punches coming. You can see Carlos Takam winding up that right hand from a mile away and it's still connecting. It's not like it's a sharp right hand. He has to wing it and he has to kind of do that because of how tall Joyce is and he's still connecting. So I had the fight and I tweeted this. I had it 5-0 going into the 6th round. I don't know what everyone else had it at home. I mean, I tweeted that and everyone was like, oh, thank God I had it because BT Sports are saying it's a lot closer. No, it was 5-0. Carlos Takam won every single round. But you did almost feel like it was inevitable that Joe was going to get to him. Like those punches were bouncing off him. I don't know what Joe's head is made of. I really don't. But those punches from a big 17 stone 3, 17 stone 4 Carlos Takam were literally having no effect. Like he didn't wobble him once. There's a couple of times Joe took a couple of back steps and a couple of times we thought, okay, but then nothing. So you almost felt like, you felt like Carlos was winning the fight, but Joe was going to win the war, if that makes sense. That's the way I was feeling ringside anyway. Because Carlos threw everything he could. And that must be demoralizing because normally if Carlos lands those punches against fringe guys, they go down. They go down or at least he has a lot more success. So you think, okay, good, money in the bank. But you almost felt like he was using so much energy to just stay busy and land those punches. Like Joe was like, okay. And eventually Joe got to him. Joe got to him at the start of the 6th and it must be weird. Like you've landed all yours. Joe's landed a couple of big punches in that fight, but nothing crazy. He lands one and you're all over the place. You're wobbling, you're back, you're going onto the ropes. And yeah, there was a bit of bone of contention of whether or not it was a good stoppage. I was like, Carlos was getting hit a lot. He was getting hit. There was about, I'm going to say 20 to 30 unanswered punches. Not all of them landed clean, but unanswered punches nonetheless. If you're Steve Gray, you're thinking, okay, he's not thrown back here either. He's not thrown back. And he did in the first little barrage. So the first time he got hurt, he threw back. But there was a second barrage where he didn't throw back at all. And then it didn't look great when he's stumbling back and then he got hit again. His head came out. Blood sort of came from his nose and mouth and Steve Gray jumped in. And sometimes I think you've got to save those guys that are just tough as old boots. You've got to save them to live for another day. He's 40 years old. I think he's a fantastic gatekeeper for the division. And there's way more fights for him. He was not going to win that fight. Honestly, that fight was going to go one way and I could just see it happening just because he'd given everything and there was nothing left. And Joe was still coming on. So I think it was a sensible stoppage. I mean, what do we want? What do we really want these fighters? Do we want them to go down 4 or 5 times and go out on their shield, as we like to say? No, I'd rather him live for another day and make a bit more money becoming a gatekeeper for sort of European and world heavyweights that are trying to get in the mix. That's what I think anyway. For Joe, though, look, at 30, was he 35? You're not going to change his style, right? I'm about to say we need more head movement and more defense, put your guard up. You ain't going to change it. I mean, he's always fought like that. I think we're noticing it more now because maybe the fighters in the past haven't hit him a lot. Dubois cracked him a lot, and so did Carlos. My fear for him is going forward, what happens if AJ cracks you like that? If AJ cracks Joe the way Carlos did, I'm telling you now, he's going down. As much as we know Joe's got a chin, there's levels to the power in heavyweight division, and Carlos is here, Anthony is here, and you could argue say Deontay Wilder's there. If he gets hit like that against AJ, Deontay Wilder, maybe even a Luis Ortiz who can sit on his punches as well, I'm not quite sure what's left with Luis, then he could be in trouble. You can't dine out on the fact you've got a granite chin. Carl Froch used to do that until he got caught by Jermaine Taylor, and I was like, oh my God, until he got caught by George Groves. Your head's not built to take that kind of punishment, especially not from 17 stone 2 guys. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Joe next. I spoke to Frank and Sam Jones after, and I was like, look, he's WBO mandatory, but the situation's going to be difficult, right? If Fury beats Wilder and AJ beats Usyk, they're going to try and go that route again. So it's going to be awkward. And they're like, yep, we know if we don't get AJ, we will just keep him busy. He will have other fights. I'm upset now that I didn't chuck a couple of names in, but it's so frantic. You're running around getting these interviews. It's quite frantic. But I don't know. Again, it goes back to this risk-reward thing with Joe. As much as I'd love it to be Hrgovic, I mean, what do you get from fighting Hrgovic? Like, financially, is it a pay-per-view fight? No. Will it set up the O2 Arena? Maybe if they put a good undercard of people that sell tickets. But I don't think it's the big fight, right? It's not a big rewarding fight. It's not a fight that puts 7 figures in your bank account. It isn't that. Dillian White is, and I mentioned this a couple of times, so apologies if I'm repeating myself, but Dillian White's the fight that sells out the O2 Arena and puts a lot of money in your back pocket. I don't know if Dillian at this stage of his career would want to fight Joe Joyce. I'll tell you now, Dillian ain't scared of Joe Joyce. Let me put that out there before people think I'm saying it. I'm not. I'm just saying at this stage of his career, what does he get from fighting Joe? You know, he wants world titles. He wants to fight Wilder, Fury, AJ. He'll feel like he's going backwards by fighting Joe. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. Maybe Kubrat Pulev is a good name. Is it? And the reason I say that is because of the risk-reward thing. Kubrat Pulev's a tough fight, but I think Joe can beat Pulev. So I think the risk is less. And it's a decent name. It's a decent name. AJ just fought Pulev. So if he can go in there and put performance against Pulev, again, he puts himself in that mix. I was thinking, as I was watching the fight, like, where's Joe in the heavyweight top 10, top 15 landscape? And I'll tell you this, he's definitely a top 10 fighter because there's not 10 heavyweights that beat him. There isn't. Wilder, yeah, because Wilder's punch power. Fury, yes, of course. AJ, yes. And then you start then they all become sort of really close 50-50 fights. I mean, Usyk's a question mark because we just don't know about him against top level heavyweights. But then the other fights against Ruiz and Hrgovic, and those are 50-50 fights as far as I'm concerned. Joseph Parker, mate, that's a good one. That's a very, very good fight. Joseph Parker, I like that one a lot. That's a very good fight. But look, we'll see what he does in the next few months, because I guess they're going to want to keep him busy. Remember, that was his first fight since beating Daniel Dubois, which was back in, was that November? I think that was back in November. I'm trying to think, should we do a separate video for all the other stuff? Because this might be a long one. Right, let's have a look. You know, we'll see what there is trending. We might just do a couple of videos, but we'll see what's trending here. Anyway, let's see. Rigondeaux, or Rigondo, as I like to call him. Nobody is talking about my power. I feel like I'm being underestimated. I don't think we're underestimating you because of that. I think we're underestimating you maybe because of your age and what have you done for me lately. But it's going to be a good fight between him and Casemiro. I'm thoroughly excited for it, like overly excited. It's going to be a great fight. So we'll see how that one plays out. This is a really good fight, by the way, on in Fight Camp first week. Chris Billiam Smith versus Tom McCarthy. It's a great fight here. Chris Billiam to get my teeth back in. Chris Billiam Smith feels he'll stop Tom McCarthy in mid to late rounds. He's favourite, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that one plays out. Anything else before we... I think there is a couple of things. Tyson Fury taking extra precautions with training camp for Trilogy. Whatever. This is a surprise. This came as a surprise for me. Buddy McGirt linking up with Callum Smith. Sees him at Champ at 175. We'll end on this story actually, and then we'll do a separate video for the other stuff tomorrow. Bit of a surprise seeing Callum Smith not with Joe Gallagher anymore. I don't mind the link up with him and Buddy McGirt, but it's weird because obviously we've seen that connection since he turned pro. I think it'd be interesting to see what he does at 175. Do they kind of take it easy with him in his first couple of fights? Do they chuck him in with someone of note? I think they've got a built-in excuse to kind of take it easy just because it's his first fight at the weight class. He's coming off a loss, and it's a new setup. So those are three very good reasons to say, okay, let's just take it slow for the first couple, and then we can explode onto the scene. The good thing for him is that the scene is red hot over here. There's some good 175-pounders here, and sort of on world level, there's some very, very good names, in fact, as well. I wonder what Buddy can add to it. A lot of people have critiqued Callum over that Canelo performance. Some people have said it was a bit too one-sided for a guy that was a 168-pound king, unbeaten, right? The ring recognised number one. I take that king status back. He wasn't that, but he was the ring recognised number one. I'll tell you this. He tried everything. You can critique it as much as you want. Sometimes you've got to just say the other man's just too good. And Canelo was just too good. He tried every combination he could try, but Canelo just kept on coming forward like a little pit bull. And there's not much you can do when you're coming up against a guy that will go down as one of the best fighters we've ever seen. That's Canelo. Honestly, if Canelo is continuing to do what he's doing and he just goes like that, and it looks like he's just going like that, then he will become one of the best fighters ever. So there's no problem with Callum losing the way he did to Canelo. But Buddy McGirt's a good fighter. What I would like to see is maybe Callum mix it up a bit more when in close. That'll be good. I don't know if Buddy can add to that. Sit on his punches a bit more as well. That's one thing I wanted him to try and do to Canelo, which was dent him as he came in. He couldn't do that. But we'll see. Look, the boxing career is a very, very short one. And if you feel like you have maximised your output with one trainer, then go to another one. There's no shame. You're still friends. Go to another trainer and see what you can do. Scott Quigg tried that as well when he went over to the wild card and trained with Freddie Roach. Some will say to some success. He had a good fight against Oscar Valdez. Him and Joe are still friends. So it's one career. Have a go and see what you can do. Peace and love.